apostrophe on an S. I don't know if that makes a difference, but that's exactly what I titled it. And then his friend Chris Hughes gives about a 6.5-minute introduction to him, and then Travis gets up there and does a 30-minute training. And he talks a lot about what's in the introduction to his book. He talks about his grandfather, Vic.
He loves his grandparents.
Yeah.
You know, he still loves his grandparents.
Yeah.
He loves his parents and his family, and you and I have similar beliefs, and you know, we know he's okay now.
I know, and I know that he's okay, and I know he's in a good place, and I know that that doesn't make it any better here for anybody.
But there's always that but. I think he's waiting for you to give relief to other people who are still here with us. And you know you have to. You can't leave it unfinished. It's the last piece of this puzzle. And it is completely up to you, Jodi. Like I told you yesterday, I have details on how things happen. There's ways to figure out. But the biggest question that everybody always asks is why. It's the biggest question of our life.
It is.
Why are we here? Why do we suffer? Why do we go through the things that we do?
Why do we hurt each other?
And the biggest reason I've ever found is for us to have happiness. We're here to have
I think you're
happiness. Right. In whatever situation that we have. No matter where we're at, who we are, and what our situation is, we can at least try to be happy. Do you want to talk about what happened that day? I've got the images in my head, and I can explain whatever it is you want about what I saw when I went there. What I can't do is I can't show you pictures. What time did you get there that day? The pictures that I have, the first ones, show you there at about 1:45 or so. Was it soon before that, or had you been there for a while already? I know his roommates are off at work during that time and don't come home till about 6:30, 7 o'clock. They don't even talk to him, really. It just seems like they just kind of rent rooms and they don't really socialize. And they kind of stick to themselves, especially his new roommate.
Who was that?
Did you know his new roommate?
I knew Zach was there.
Zach and Enrique was the other one.
I think I saw Enrique at his funeral services, or I mean his memorial services, but I didn't meet him, or I didn't know him.
It's a Mexican guy. He's
kind of short,
quiet, kind of reserved.
His other roommates, I knew Dustin, who was, I think, in the room that shared Travis's wall, and John Hepworth was in the other corner room.
There was only Zach and Enrique there.
Yeah, he had moved out.
And those guys, we have all of their things as well, so I mean, they're asking too. Zach is going through so much right now. He's like, how can we have not known that he was there for days? He racks his brain. He calls me 2-3 times a week. You know, just goes over and over in his mind. He has no idea. And he was the one who first went into the room and found him.
He's the one? I've heard so many rumors about how that happened.
Yeah. Other friends came over looking for him, and they went into the room. There's a few of them. They came out, and you know what? They'll never be the same. When you see something like that, it's difficult, especially when it's somebody you know, somebody you love. I deal with it all the time, so it doesn't bother me as much.
You must have to remain detached quite a bit.
You know who I usually get attached to is the people I'm talking to. To you. You're the one that I'm gonna remember. I remember him, but I didn't know him. I will remember you. I mean, we've talked so much since that day. Over the phone and here, and I'll probably talk to you some more later when we get back to Arizona. Whenever you go, I don't know.
Still wouldn't hurt anybody.
I know.
I don't think I can avoid it though.
Everybody's hurting already. There's nothing else you can say or do that could help that except for maybe an explanation of why it happened and how it happened. It's not my job to have an opinion of you and your personality and your character. It's my job to sit here and talk to you and get the facts of the incident and present those to the court and whoever else needs to know. You want to try to open up and talk about what happened that day? Because I'm ready.
I do, but I don't think I'm ready. I mean, there's not much to say. I just don't.
You want to start and we can stop at any time you want. Fill in some details. This is what I do to assure that you're not just saying you did something just to cop out. Because there are certain details that only I know and the person who did this knows. Nobody else does. And I use this information to confirm what I suspected. So if you can just start and give me some details as confirmation, then that'll be fine. And if you want, we can continue at another time.
He just really wants to.
Well, then let's start. Because I know that part that really wants to is that part inside of you that is telling you to do what's right. We don't have to go over details, all the details. Why did you go there that day, Jodi? Why did you show up that morning? I have questions too. Were you going to try to convince him not to go to Mexico? Were you going to try to convince him to go on a trip with you? Or
No, he would never not go to Mexico. I would never want him to not go. He was going to see Chichen Itza, and it's on the list of 1,000 places.
That's one of the things I want to do in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's an important part of our history, both in the church and I guess our heritage too.
That's where my people come from.
Yeah.
So why were you there that day? Please tell me. Did you just miss him? Did he call you? Did he miss you? What was it? The only other explanation I can think of is that you went there for one purpose, and that's to hurt him. And if that's the case, if that's the truth, then that's what you need to say. If you want me to call and tell his family that you're sorry and that you apologize for what happened, I can do that. Whatever you want. This is your time right now. I flew up here for a lot of different reasons, and one of them, the main reason, was to sit down with you here and talk to you about what happened. I did it yesterday, and now I'm here today. But the time is limited.
There's so many things that I want to say.
Start with one. Start with the beginning. Was it a last minute change from your trip to come down, down to Arizona? I bet you were going through your head. Should I just go, or should I just keep going to Utah? It's only an additional 300 miles from where you were, so. Jodi, your time's running out. I'm not going to be able to talk to you anymore. And I want to. Once you get into the system, I'm not going to be able to talk to you anymore. You can leave so many questions unanswered for me, and for his family, and for your family. You were there that day, weren't you? Were you guys alone? Can you answer that for me? Were you guys alone?
so much, and I just want
Answer that for me. Should I be looking for somebody else? Is there anybody else with you besides you and Travis? Are you protecting somebody else? Jodi.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what to do. Trying to just figure it
I'm right here. I'm right in front of you. This is what you need to focus on right now.
out. Just trying to think here.
You had Rachel call me for a reason. That's why I came back here.
I had her call you about those photos. But I also thought that because you communicate with his family more regularly, I don't think she's talked. I just don't know what to say. They deserve to have some kind of peace.
Well, you want me to ask you a question that they've been asking me? Maybe you can answer it? Same question I've been asking you. Was there somebody else with you? That's the number one question that his whole family has been asking. What do I tell them? What do you want me to say to them? Because the only answer I can give them is, I don't have any evidence to show there was anybody else there. Well, that's another way of saying, I don't know for sure. And that's absolutely true. I don't know if somebody else was there with you. Please give me that at least. For them. You don't, if there was, you don't have to say a name. It's a simple yes or no. Yes or no, Jodi? Look at me. Please. They want to know. Was somebody else there with you?
I'm just trying to think.
You keep fighting it.
What happened to me today and from here on out, if I just told you every single detail that I know, and I gave you a confession?
Nothing else changes. It just speeds up the process.
In what way? Do I go to Arizona faster?
Yeah. The process in Arizona speeds up.
So if I maintain my innocence, then I stay here longer, just in the
No,
system?
no, you don't really stay here longer. That speeds up the process in Arizona.
Like the trial and all that jazz?
Do you want to put your family through a trial? That's another question you have to ask yourself.
No. Can I do it all without a trial, or does there have to be a trial?
It's something that you can discuss with the prosecutor.
Oh.
And I'm on the phone with him pretty much every day, giving him updates.
What's his name?
His name is Juan Martinez. And he is the #1 prosecutor in Phoenix. Well, at least in my book he is.
Is Phoenix part of Marco?
Yes.
I wonder if I should just get a lawyer first.
That's completely up to you.
I know that you can't stay here forever and you need to go back. If I get one, will you be able to still talk to me afterward, or does everything stop, or what?
I'll tell you exactly what a lawyer's going to tell you to do. He's going to say, nope,
No one what?
no more contact. She had her chance. You had your chance to talk to her. It's over.
Well, I mean, I just would want his advice, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that I'm going to take his advice, nor does it mean that,
That's completely up to you.
sitting
Jodi.
in a cell somewhere not saying anything is going to help.
I can't advise you either way. But what I can advise you on is the truth. The details of the case that you have in your head that you can give me will allow me to verify the information that I have, to make sure that I'm looking at the right person, and to verify my theory that nobody else was there with you. It's like I said yesterday, there is no doubt in my mind what happened there that day. A couple of details that I don't have. How it started and why it started. And like I said before, if you can provide me just a few that I can at least relay to the family, that would be fine with me. If you don't want to give all the details, we don't have to go through all the details. But let's at least start. Let's start right here, right now. If there's a question that I ask you that you feel like you don't want to answer, you can say, no, I don't want to answer that right now.
Okay, just hold on a second.
Do you want to move forward or no?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do, but
Well, let's do it.
I just,
I'm here.
I know, I'm not trying to stall, I'm not trying to waste your time.
I know you're not trying to stop.
It's,
I know it's difficult for you. Difficult for anybody sitting in your shoes right now. That's one thing that we have is our own free will.
It's all really blurry. It really is blurry.
What went through your mind after it happened? A lot of fear? What did you think when you were driving away?
Scared. Finally.
I can't imagine what you were going through waiting for it to finally come out.
Waiting for what to come out?
The news that he was no longer with us. He must have been going through hell. Every day that went by, what were you thinking? What was that?
I was scared. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And you just went on with your day like nothing had happened?
I had to.
You had to. Did you tell anybody what had happened? It must have been hard.
It's all a blur. Can I please see those photos?
As soon as I get back, the detectives went to Reading to go pick up the rental car that you had that day, and they took the photos.
Oh. There's probably something in the rental car.
Like what?
Maybe blood.
In the trunk? In the back seat? That's what we're gonna look for, so.
I was just thinking maybe the handles, lock, steering wheel, something like that. Things that get touched.
Is that what was going through your head when you left? What did I leave behind? What did I touch?
No.
What was going through your head when you left his neighborhood there?
Just had to run. A little bit of a survival instinct, but it was mostly just
Run.
fear.
Are you worried that his roommates were gonna get home soon?
I was home.
Did you even think about that? That's the first thing that I was thinking about is when she left here. She barely missed his roommates. Or maybe his roommates had gotten home and just didn't hear her.
Did they hear anybody at all in the house?
No. They saw things which were unusual.
Like what?
They saw his CTR ring and his watch on the kitchen counter, and they thought that was odd. He never leaves town without those.
No, he always leaves those there, but unless he's leaving, then he takes those things and puts them on.
There were clues here and there, but they just went on with their day like nothing had happened, without even asking questions. They knew that he was going on a trip, but they didn't know what day. That's
He
what
was
took
supposed to leave on Tuesday.
on Tuesday, that following week.
That's right.
And they found him on Monday. But all those little things that they talked about now, Zach is killing himself. He's like, I don't know how I did not see this. Why didn't I just go check on him? Why didn't I just follow my instinct and go look?
Travis didn't always bond with his roommates. He did with some. He bonded with Aaron, even though he had an intolerance for Aaron's lifestyle. He bonded pretty well with his friend Josh Ward, who lives back in Southern California now.
He wasn't too close with Zach or Enrique.
No, or his previous roommates. I don't know anything
They seem
about
to they seem to have been just people who rent rooms out from them. They don't become friends.
Yeah, they were just
They have their own lifestyles and they go on.
Yeah, his rules were, LDS standards and pay your rent on time. And be clean.
What time did you leave there that day? You don't remember? Just trying to drive and get as much distance as you could. How long were you in the house after it happened? I know you tried to clean yourself up and clean up what you could.
Wasn't.
It didn't take too long, but you did. Why did you throw the camera in the washing machine? We found blood in the downstairs bathroom where somebody had tried to wash their hands. There's blood on the outside of the washing machine. There's little things that give us clues to what you were doing afterwards. Do you remember those things?
No.
You remember some. What was your intention going there that day? What was the purpose of the visit? The same as before?
Just starting to remember. I'm just trying to remember that week. That whole week. And the week prior had a lot to do with it. The weekend of Friday night prior, I think.
Did you have plans on going down there? Or I know you said he had called and wanted you to come down. At what point did you decide, okay, I'm going?
He always was like, not, I don't want to say meddling, but he was always like more concerned than I felt he needed to be about my finances. And he's like, well, how can you make a road trip when you're this, that, and that,
Well, he expected everyone to be like he is.
He did. He really did.
He expected that, hey, if you go on a road trip, you better be thinking about this and that. And
There were so many times where I just threw my responsibilities to the wind and went on road trips with him because I am a little irresponsible when it comes to that. It's not just because it was with him, it's because it was the traveling. And,
when he leaves, he usually makes sure everything is planned out.
and that he has enough money for it.
And you just kind of take off sometimes.
Yeah, I guess
You're a very, very free spirit.
And it's
I've known
not.
that from the beginning. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good.
What gives you the indication, like when you say you know that from the beginning?
I'm talking to you. Talking to people who know you. It's like, oh, that's just Jodi, you know.
I am real
She
spacey and just.
When you want to go do something, you just go do it, and you'll deal with the consequences later.
Yeah.
When did you decide to go visit him? At what point? Were you already on the road, or was it from here? Did you already know you were going to go visit him when you left here? I've done that before. Sometimes I just leave and, oh, you know what? I'm going to go visit this person while I'm on the way.
You know, go ahead.
Did you see any of his roommate's cars out in the driveway when you left? That part just bothers me because it was so close at the time when one of the roommates came home. And I'm thinking maybe you were still in the house when he was there.
No, no, I was in the driveway.
You were in the driveway. They would have seen the car then, right?
Yeah. My space was always right behind Travis's car, and he parked in it's a 3-car garage, and he took the middle space. And one of his roommates
Prius?
Yeah, the Prius, or his BMW before that. And then there was like a smaller little space, but it was enough for a car, but it was always jammed with junk from his roommates. He was very much he didn't save stuff, you know.
Yeah.
He had so much storage space. He was so generous. When I moved there, he let me store all my stuff there because I went from a house to a room, and so I had artwork. Cause I paint and art supplies, photos, books and books and books and books. So many books. Some aren't even mine. They belong to my friend Matt. I was renting that car yesterday because I was taking a trip to Monterey. And,
Oh, is it Matt?
Yeah, I was gonna drop off some books to him that I'd had for years. We dated like 8 years ago. We're still friends. So, all of his books that somehow I ended up keeping, and some were mine, some more like esoteric and spiritual kind of books that I'm probably never gonna read now because they're just so out there.
I'm sure they'll get those back to him.
And then some photos also too. Daryl, who was another guy I dated after Matt that we bought a house together. And kitchen supplies. Daryl paid for so much when he was there. He footed the bill with Costco, so I had they said that they took knives out of my car.
I don't even know who they are, you know.
They're Daryl's. I mean, they've been in storage for years, just collecting
It's
dust.
good to know that they're his.
Yeah, no, they were all just. One might have been mine, but like, I think they were Daryl's. And so there's those and a bunch of kitchen supplies and pictures of him and his son mostly. And we used to go to 49er games all the time, just camping trips.
So the car you'd driven there was the rental car?
Yeah.
The Ford Focus?
Oh.
That's the car they're going to go pick up, Ford Focus.
Oh, yeah.
I know they were going to rent you another car, but then something happened with that first car. Either you didn't like it or I don't know.
Oh, it was red, and I thought, because I always hear that you don't drive a red car, because I would never buy a red car. And it was fine, it was a Ford Focus too.
And you got the other car instead.
I was like, do you have one with a more neutral color? Because I was like, you always get pulled over and you get tickets. No, I don't know if that's true, that's just something I've been told since.
It's just there's a lot of people that have red cars who like to go fast. It's a personality thing. It's not because of the car color.
I just, for me, it's a psychological thing because it's more noticeable, and it's like, you know, red flag or the bull kind of thing.
I know Travis doesn't lock his doors when he's home. Was the door open when you got there, or did you have to go to the garage, or how did you get inside? Did you knock? Everybody says he just leaves his doors open when he's home. Trusts everybody.
Have you ever seen the movie The Secret?
I don't think so.
It's kind of, you're familiar with the whole law of attraction kind of thing? Like what you think you become or you bring into your life.
That's true.
He felt that if you lock your doors, then what are you telling the universe? What are you telling the ether out there? Is that I need to lock my door for a reason.
Yeah, I want to be safe.
Yeah, I want to be safe, which also gives the impression that, well, there's somebody that could hurt me. So, and by trusting and opening them,
He's a very, very trusting person. And that's what made him who he is. Most of us come from a different kind of background and have a different type of philosophy. Doing what I do for a living, I lock my doors.
I can imagine. Yeah, I guess me coming from Salinas, I've always locked my doors. I used to go to sleep at night and I would hear gunshots. We weren't in a bad neighborhood, but our neighborhood neighbored another neighborhood that wasn't that great, and gunshots scary. And there were, because Salinas is agricultural and there were a lot of fields, and I used to think that there were hunters in the field with their dogs catching animals or something. They were all just gangs. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to.
That's okay. I've noticed that when I've talked to you, you kind of go off sometimes.
Travis used to be like, get to the point. Get to the point. And that made me kind of mad. He had a little bit of a double standard with that, because if you ever see him train or talk, ask any of the leaders in prepaid legal, he is notorious for going too long.
Mm-hmm.
His friend Dave Hall in Utah cuts him off, and he got mad at him once because he went 5 minutes over, and he just talks and talks and talks. And I said, you're kind of long-winded yourself.
Well, he had a future in that. That's what he wanted to do, and he was good at it.
He was
really
so
good at it.
He talks about things of more substance, though, and I just ramble.
So was the door unlocked when you got there? Or did you went through the door of the garage? I know a lot of his friends have the key code for the garage too. He doesn't keep that a secret either. I got that from several different friends.
Yeah, 0817.
Was he expecting you? Yes. Did you surprise him? I know he was always happy to see you. What you guys had was not wrong, Jodi. Going over all his stuff, he was always happy to see you.
He told me this time because I was in his ward boundaries, so one of my roommates went to his church, and they were doing some church activity, and Travis was getting a ride when he said his friend Katie Barnes was in the back seat. He was in the other seat, and there were two people in the front. I guess they were all going to squeeze in and go to this church activity, and they were swinging by and pick up Amy, my roommate. And I wasn't there, I don't think. I was at work or something. But he said he wasn't doing much. He must have been on his phone or something, texting. But he said they parked, and he looked up, and it was my house. He's like, "What are we doing here?" And he freaked out. I started laughing so hard when he told me that story. And they're like, "We're getting Amy. She's going with us." Oh, okay. And he just kind of sat there, twiddled his thumbs, and then they got Amy, and she left.
This is after you guys broke up?
Well, yeah, because by the time I lived in that house, we
right.
weren't together. It was just, I think it just weirded him out. I don't know what reminded me of that just now. You said something.
He was happy to see you.
Yeah, I don't think he would have probably been, it would have been awkward, I think, then. Because we kept.
You guys had a different kind of relationship. relationship. You guys were happy to see each other, but for some reason he couldn't outwardly show it in public.
He
was afraid of his image, and to him his image was everything. And
he told me on several occasions it saddened him and it bothered him. He had two friends in particular that gave him a very hard time about our friendship, and that was Chris and Sky. But I think they did it out of concern for his future, his marital status. You know, by him and I continuing that, we were both just postponing what we should be focusing on instead.
Well, you're living life. Life is what you make of it. It's not set in stone.
Yeah, I don't think
It's
either
not a
of us have our priorities in the right
I know the
place.
church has a general plan. You go if you're a guy, you go on a mission, you come back, you find a girl, and you get married, and you start having kids. And you start contributing to society and to your church.
Yeah, that's really not a bad life.
And you came into something, I don't know whether you came in with both feet or you still had one foot out, but it's a whole different society in that church. It's an all or nothing.
It is, and I think that's just because the church actually
And that's what people
lives
struggle
their standards.
with. They have the utmost standards, and you look around, and there's not one person in that church, in those pews, who doesn't need to be there. If they were perfect, they wouldn't have to go. And sometimes I think it's a facade. I know. And Travis kept trying to live up to those standards, but he's a human being, and both of you are mortal, and you have free will, and that's that. Sometimes I think maybe he put too much pressure on himself to be perfect, or to at least portray himself to be perfect. And that's maybe why something like this happens. Things get way out of hand.
I'm not an evil person.
I know you're not.
But I've always have, and I'm not a promiscuous person.
Something attracted you guys to each other.
Yeah, and I think there was also, I knew him well. I knew him through and through. I loved him and I cared about him. And I knew we weren't going to get married, so
How did you know you weren't going to get married?
Couple of reasons.
It's like oil and water. You guys just don't mix.
We mixed really well for a time, but I think when I discovered his ways last year, it was so hard, but
What ways are those?
he didn't seem like husband material, but it didn't mean that he wouldn't be in the future. It just meant that, something that Chris and Sky said to me back in January of 2007 really stuck, and they said, do you want to be like Deanna and wait 6 years?
Yeah.
They made jokes saying, if you wait 6 years, you can get free breast implants, because he bought her breast implants at one point. And they're like, and then he'll really do it, just all these things, and I was like, what? Why would they say these? Anyway, that one part stuck though, and I felt that, women have, not all women, not Mimi and not certain other women, but most women just fall all over themselves for Travis, because he's nice and he seems like the whole package.
I think Mimi kind of saw through everything. There's some people out there that can see through stuff.
I kind of did too. Like, I had never been pursued by a person like that. But at the same time, I'd like to say, like, Mimi saw through this, but I saw beneath that and through that. Like he wrote that thing on his blog, The Gold from Within. And I really did see, like, inside, he was an amazing person. He was a good person. He was a generous person. He gave so much, and
Well, maybe you chose to actually look past that first level. Somebody like Mimi looks past that first level and sees that's something I don't like already, and I'm not going to look any further. You, on the
and
other
she
hand,
spends a lot of time at the temple, so I think that I've never been endowed, I've never been through the temple, but from what I understand, I think that it's such a sacred place, and meditating there and being there will help to give you further insight about where just you as a person are supposed to make a move on a certain decision in your life. So maybe that just wasn't for her.
That's true.
I also was thinking after the fact, I didn't get every chance to discuss this with him. I didn't know she was going to Cancun, but and I didn't know she didn't. She flat out told him no, but I thought.
So that's completely out of the theory that you went there to convince him to not go.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay, because that's the first theory that was thrown out there, was she was jealous. She knew that he was going to Cancun with this other girl, and it was just jealousy.
I never.
It's the simplest.
I asked
thing.
him at one point after I moved. I was like, hey, who are you taking to Cancun, by the way? I knew it wasn't. At one point, there was a girl named Brenda who, she wasn't romantically involved. She just in the business, and she saw me at the memorial, and she's like, now, wasn't he going to take you to Cancun? And that was like, we found out about Cancun a year prior, right about the time we broke up, and so, like, I never really assumed that I had a ticket there. And, you know, as things went on, it was just never discussed, so there was never any discussion.
That never went through your head then.
Yeah, there was never a discussion that I was going to Cancun. Not on that trip, not with him, maybe sometime in the future, some other time with somebody else, but no. So no, that wasn't an issue.
What about the trip of him coming up to you, come visit you? Was that something that was planned, or is that something that?
Yeah, it was.
Because I wasn't even sure that was true.
No, it was postponed twice. He was gonna maybe come up, and I kind of like was hoping he would come by May 24th, because I was singing the national anthem at the races, and I thought, it's part of one of my goals for this year, was one of my fears to overcome was being in front of a large crowd or public speaking.
You have anxiety with crowds?
Yeah, there were 3 fears. One was handguns, which is one of the reasons I got a gun. There was a CHP here in town that said he would take me out and go target practicing. And I went to the sporting goods store several times to see what he had, and they were all in the $500 or $600 range for the kind that I wanted. So they were too expensive, but then there was this one, it was cheap, it was like $100 and something, and I said, all right, let's do it. So I put my money down and got my little 10-day background check and all that, so, and then I got it and I was happy, you know. And the third one was skydiving, so I was gonna do that sometime this year. But he wasn't able to make it up for he was scared to tell me that too. He's like, I know you get really upset.
Was he scared?
Not scared, I'm hesitant.
He didn't want you to be upset.
He didn't want to hurt my feelings. He told me that. He was on the phone in early May, because I had known about that I was gonna sing 8 weeks prior, about 8 weeks prior. Yeah, because I had approached the guy at the state down by the Purple Plum, which is this one of the middle exits there. He works at the gas station area.
I ate there this morning.
Oh, really? It's pretty good food.
You used to work there, didn't you?
Yeah. They're good people. They
It's
took
weird,
me
'cause
out
I went to go
stage.
eat there, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. Jodi used to work here. Constantly thinking about you, because of this.
It was a good place to be. I worked there twice actually when I was 18. My dad closed his restaurant when I was 16 or 17, and that's when I was a server there. And being a server in a restaurant is probably one of the best positions, because you tend to make a little more money than the other positions.
Tips.
It's all contingent, but generally it works out in your favor.
You've got that kind of personality that people want to tip you.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when he didn't come up, was there an issue with that? Did you guys talk about that?
Well, he said he put it so delicately that I couldn't be mad. I was sad, but I wasn't mad or anything. And he said, he's like, I'm just not sure. He said, there's a lot of stress going on. There's a lot of things right now, with this, and just I have stuff going on. And he's like, I've been hesitating to tell you, but it looks like I might not be able to make it up there to watch you sing. And I've been scared to tell you that. And I was like, oh, and he says it, and he taught me this technique. He says it in a way to disarm you first, to where you're just like, well, oh, no, reverse psychology sort of. So he said that, and I could tell that he really was concerned that he would hurt my feelings.
Is that when you decided to, or he decided to invite you up?
No, not at all. Because he didn't invite me up till he found out I was going on a road trip. But then he's like, but he's all definitely the first week of June. He's all probably before I go to Cancun. And so, as that week got closer, he was like, look, we had a big fight somewhere around then. remember the exact timeline, but it was in late May. And
is that when his email was sent out that you sent him, or
which
was it a large email about your relationship?
Just how I think that, yeah, because I just could tell. Because I edited and I did all the editing and the grammar and spelling. He's not the greatest speller. On his first chapter of his book, and he wanted to post it on his blog. And I noticed when he posted the introduction that he's like, special thanks to Katie Barnes, and I have no jealousy toward her. She's just a great girl, and you know, there's nothing there to worry about. In fact, when I was worried about Lisa Andrews and Elena Gomez, her best friend, they were all spending a lot of time together, and so I wasn't sure that she would post flirtatious things on his MySpace. And he's like, don't worry about that. And you know, he's like, he said at one point, he's like, if you have anything to worry about, it's Katie Barnes. And so I was like, you were so spinning it to throw my focus off something, and I don't think there was ever any concern with that. I know that he liked her, but nothing more, as a friend. And he said she's a little freaky and emotionally unstable sometimes, but I think she's just young. She's a nice girl. And so he said that, I'm like, and I said, hey, make sure you posted a special thanks to Jodi Arias for editing. And he's like, you know, I can't do that. And I was like, why not? And he's like, Jodi, we've discussed this. And what he meant was, I made a few comments, because he was like, leave me comments on my blog and rate me 5 stars, you know, and that kind of thing, because also it looks like people are going there. So I left a few comments, and he saw people who already said things, and he was referring to Sky Hughes, who was like, hey, I noticed a certain someone's been commenting on your blog, and I think it's because he had given her and I told him to say this too. Okay, I'll be real quick, because I know this is all I'm just giving you background. We sat next to each other at the last convention, a pre-legal convention in Oklahoma City, and it's because we buy our tickets way in advance. So we bought our tickets last year, and you know, because he qualifies for executive director every month, which is one of the top levels in the company, he gets to sit on the floor close to the front as opposed to the stadium seats. So you know, I had a ticket because he bought a ticket for me at the time. So it wasn't a big deal, but we were just sitting next to each other. But she made a comment, you know, he has to explain, listen, you know, we got our tickets a year ago, there's no way she's gonna give up her seat for stadium seats. So he sent that ticket, he sent that text either to her friend Holly or related to her or someone. Anyway, I realized that she was giving him a hard time, so I said, listen, tell her next time she says anything that Jodi's dating other people and that she's moving to California soon, because it was already in the plans to move to California.
I don't understand why you couldn't just tell them that you guys were still friends. What issue is it?
I wondered that too, and he said it's because him and Sky had a lot of arguments, but it wasn't because they disliked each other. It's because they both have sort of fiery personalities. She has a strict set of standards, and he's just like opinionated. So together that's kaboom. And but they nonetheless, they were really best of friends, especially him and her husband Chris. And a lot of their fights were about me, from what I gathered. I don't know a lot of that.
Is that what that email was about? Is the whole
situation?
Yeah.
So we had that conversation, and I walked to work because I was, you know, Purple Plum in my grandmother's house. It's being in Mesa, going to that. It's ridiculous to drive when it's less than 10 minutes to walk, and gas prices here are almost $5.